Welcome back to Paper Movies, a novelization book club. I'm the host for this month. I'm Adam. I'm joined by Jeremy from Stupid Chainsaw Productions. He's also featured on the Live and Let's Discuss podcast, as well as the King of Our Nightmare podcast. And also is our other host, Matthew from the Geek Static and from his Star Wars podcast, The Tuscan Reader. This month in November, it's party time, Party, because we're discussing the novelization to The Mask by Steve Perry. How you guys doing today?
Good.
I'm good, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, we had a little crisis over here, and I'm mobile today, so that's why it's bad audio, bad video quality, but it's all right. I'm here. We're all here. Let's party.
We're all good.
So, before we get into our thoughts, of course, we're going to do a little brief summary about The Mask. Now, The Mask is actually based on a comic. I have not read the comic, but I did read a little bit about it. The movie is a complete 180 from how that comic book actually is, but just the synopsis of the film. A kind of a nobody named Stanley Ipkiss works at a bank. He comes across a wooden mask. He later discovers that mask gives him the ability to transform into this being with like comical superpowers, and eventually he finds himself being hunted down by the mob and the police as well. Now, so what did you guys think? I'm really intrigued to know.
I'll start.
Go for it.
Okay. So to me, The Mask was a movie that we weren't allowed to watch when I was a kid because my sister saw it at the age of 2 and it scared her so bad she had nightmares. It was when it first aired on TNT or something like that, or like we watched it on TNT, and I loved it. Although I've only ever seen it 2 or 3 times, and it's been a long time since I saw it. But when Adam said, "Hey, The Mask has a novelization," and then bought it immediately. I had to also buy it immediately, and then we had to wait for Matthew to get a copy of it. I was really excited. It's Steve Perry, an author that I really enjoy his work. He did a Star Wars novel and some Aliens novels. So he's used to writing property for like certain properties. This book is a really good first half of a book, and the second half kind of slips, but I think it's still solid enough. I got Spider-Man novelization vibes with this, where Spider-Man had a really good like beginning, a lot of stuff added into it, and then at the end it's just the movie. But with The Mask, unfortunately, the jokes don't seem to translate well to paper. And I figured that was going to happen coming into it. It's like with Ghostbusters, another one that had issues where the jokes in Ghostbusters and the Ghostbusters 2 novelizations don't really work when they're written. It's just how these actors perform them. With that being said, there are some funny moments in this book. The beginning of this book is a Viking like prequel of them dumping this mask in America, and like a whole hailstorm happens, and then it cuts to like a family at the beach, and the beach is super toxic and the water is brown and it's just full of garbage.
Yeah, sewage.
Yeah, and that's the things I thought were really funny in the book, is like the satire for Edge City.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so absurd. It's such a satire. That's funny. Like all the stuff with setting up Stanley before he gets the mask is all really solid. Even when he first has the mask on, that's pretty good. It's when we get really into being the mask, it just kind of falls apart a little bit. So Yeah, that's my 2 cents of that.
Yeah, you definitely hit a couple of points like that I've noticed with this book too. But before I give my thoughts, Matthew, what did you think?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, Jeremy. The opening was kind of silly. When I first started reading, I was like, wait a second, this is the mask. Did they print the wrong story in this book at first? But then when it started getting to the humor with the beach scene, which I thought it was hilarious. You get this mom who just doesn't care. She's just rude. Her kid's running out. There was wasn't there a sewage alert? Like, don't put
Yeah.
your kids in, don't get in the water. There's a sewage alert. Pollution is really high right now, but nobody cares. And
But
then there's
also, it takes a diver just straight up getting crushed under a pipe.
for everybody to get out. The I agree a lot too with the character points. The Ipkiss, cool character in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going fine. It's like, oh, guy's down on his luck. He runs down to the water, jumps in this nasty river, pulls out the wooden mask, and we get some fun with that first little bit. That he gets the clock jumps out of his pocket and goes down the hallway because it's like late at night. It's supposed to be real quiet, and he's just smashing with a hammer. This alarm clock's going off. It's like, oh, okay, I get the cartoon vibes. Kind of silly, kind of stupid for me. And as it went along, it got sillier, if that's even a word, and more silly as we went along. And I had a really hard time getting in sync with the cartoony moments.
Yeah.
And like the reality of that just got really weird for me. And I just, when he'd wake up, the mask was next to him. Like, oh man, that's a crazy night. He didn't remember what he was doing. And then the next scene, it's like he's in total control of what he's doing. I just found that just kind of weird. But the stuff with the mafia, that was silly. The way that Steve Perry wrote their accents was pretty good. Definitely like that 90s, like, oh yeah, I could hear that. I mean, when I was a kid, me and my friends sat around and talked like that, just jokes, writing a little script of our own. And that was exactly how we did it. It was just silly, funny, but also very strange. And I couldn't really get into it like I wanted to. So what are your thoughts, Adam?
I agree. First off, I just want to say I've seen this film quite a bit of times. I even watched it today before we recorded because I just finished the book and I wanted to kind of see all the differences. There were quite a bit of things that I noticed with this book. And first off, I'm just going to say the whole Viking thing, I didn't think that was necessary at all. I mean, I get that they were wanting to show how the mask got where it was, but I didn't think that was necessary. Like, you don't really care about that in the film that much. And you just kind of get the hint of like, oh, okay, I can see like it was, the Vikings left it there or something like that. But I didn't really care for it. The beach scene was funny. I did like that. I thought Steve Perry did a good job setting up Stanley Ipkiss's character. There were some things with this book that were not in the film at all. Like, there were scenes that were added. There were actually lines that were rewritten a certain way. Like, some of the classic lines that Jim Carrey said in the film, they were either rephrased or just completely different in the book. And I'll get. Say what?
I said that could be up to Jim Carrey improv.
I think so.
Very true. Very true. There was also a plot hole in this book that I picked up on that I thought the film did a better at, addressing in this book. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But you see, kind of like with you guys, the whole cartoon silliness, I was really intrigued to see how Steve Perry could pull off all those like cartoony effects, like with the clock or with him dancing in front of all the cops and everything, or all the funny it even actually sees him describing like, and then the mask turned into a cartoon wolf as he whistles for Tina as she sings her song, or I'm not quoting the book, I mean, just kind of, but you can tell he did the very best he could, but it just wasn't the same. And Jeremy, I agree with you. Like, it started off pretty good, but near the end, it was just kind of decreasing.
will,
You know,
I
go
will
ahead.
give this book credit. With a lot of times when we read something that's bad, it just feels really slow.
Mm-hmm.
The Mask never feels slow.
No.
It's a very honestly. It took us. We all finished it pretty close to this recording, but I honestly think it's not the book's fault. It's just we have really busy schedules. But every time I pick this book up, I'd read like
Fly
20
through it.
pages. Yeah, at least 20 pages, if not like 40. I mean, I read probably 100 pages in one sitting with this book.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
yeah, it didn't feel like I'd been sitting for that long. Like, it's in that regard, it's superb. But it's just that, and I don't know if it's Steve Perry's fault that the cartoony stuff doesn't work. I don't think anyone could make that really work. I'm trying to think of how Alan Dean Foster would approach that, or Max Allan Collins, friend of the show.
Yeah.
Or Waylon Drew. Like, some of these people who've written really good novelizations. I don't know how they'd approach
I don't
it.
know. I don't think that they really could do anything that would have made it outstanding, because it to me, like I said, it took me out of the story a couple times. Or he falls out of the window. You know he's not going to die when he falls out the window, but he splatters on the ground and he picks himself up. It's like, okay, he's invincible, but then he wakes up in the morning and everything's fine. It's just like it takes him. It like sucks him out of reality. And I don't know. It's a weird thing where he just pulls stuff out from nowhere. It was weird. It's like this, I guess, a cross rip in the dimensions, which would have been a cool thing if they could have explained, like, oh yeah, maybe the storm that would always happen before somebody else puts the mask on, like, does something to everybody else in a sense too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
They barely try to explain it's Loki's mask and the god of mischief, and it's just like,
It's
that was
like
with the scene with the. There's the scene with the doctor when Ipkiss sees like an advertisement, right? He's like, "Oh, I want to go talk about this. Go see this doctor." Because he sees like a book or something in the window, and the next scene is him in the guy's office, which I thought was kind of funny because he's like, "Yeah, I need to know what more about the mask situation," and the guy's like, "It's a metaphor, and Ipkiss was just left to figure things out on his own."
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. Like, this book was not hard to read at all. Like, it was in a very quick read. I finished, like, the other night, like, I had like 120 pages left. I finished 100 pages of it within like an hour and finished the rest, within just less than an hour. And, it's not hard to retain at all. Like, what you read, it's very easy to retain. Like, you don't get like too horribly lost, but
right.
But there was a couple of things that this novelization did that one that I liked, two that, like I said earlier, was a plot hole. And like in the film, there's a scene where after he gets the mask, like he's walking up the stairs in his apartment, and his landlady, Mrs. Peeman, she's like, "Do you have any idea what time it is?" And he goes, "Actually, no," like saying it very sarcastic. But in this novelization, it actually explains the meaning behind the "actually knows," because he just got his watch robbed,
Yeah, you got robbed.
Yeah, I like that part. But, and I was going to say this for later, but I'll just go ahead and get to it. There is a big plot hole that I just noticed, and I don't know if you guys caught on to it too, but it was the scene where after Tina goes to visit Stanley in jail, and she gets ambushed afterwards by Dorian Tyrell, the villain of the story, and all of his men. But this is at the point where Dorian has the mask, and he says that he's never taken the mask off. He hasn't had to eat or sleep with it. But the plot hole that I caught on was Stanley said that the mask only works at night. So because
the only thing I could think of is if he took it off in the daytime. Like, then it wouldn't work. But if he didn't take it off,
Yeah, I thought about that, but I was just like, I just wish they kind of would have explained it. Like, if you keep it on during the day, does it stay on, or does it like, or if like, or does like if during the day does it fall off automatically? Because like they say, because it only worked at night. That's just what I caught on.
yeah,
So
I don't know. Yeah, that is kind of funky.
Something that I did not like was when that Dorian, that mobster, would put the mask on. It would say Dorian/mask.
I didn't
It's
like
like,
that either.
Because they
just
also did
call it.
Milo/mask.
They did. And maybe it's humor that Steve Perry put in there, or if it was just like to make sure that these people are wearing the mask. Because when Stanley has it, it's just the mask.
The mask, yeah.
It would have been better if it was just everybody was the mask when they had it on.
I call it a Lauk situation. If anyone's read Star Wars Last Command, there's a spoilers. Luke fights a clone of himself, but Timothy Zahn, to differentiate, the clone of Luke is spelled Luuke, and then in the audiobook, Mark Thompson calls him Lauk. It's like that. It's just to differentiate because they don't all act the same as the mask. It brings out like it exaggerates things. Like that's why Stanley's a cartoon character. He watches cartoons.
Yeah, they also tried to make Dorian kind of a cartoon character as well in the novelization.
But he's
like
twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I remember this one where like Mrs. Peenman tried to shoot Dorian, and it said like he turned into like a Superman or superhero, like and
he puts his hands on his hips.
Yeah,
had a cape on, I think.
Yeah, I and I don't know. I kind of like the version from the film better because he was more menacing. Like he did things still in a comical way, but it was more threatening than what the mask did. Like there's a scene where he gets shot several times and he absorbs the bullets and then he just like shoots them out of his mouth in a machine gun. But that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff that I did like was the beginning, all the dramatic stuff. The stuff with the mechanics was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they kept like, oh yeah, we got this problem, or oh yeah, okay, well if you use this coupon, you can get this fixed. I thought it was funny because it's just like, yeah, typical mechanic, trying to scam somebody, and they pulled it off pretty good with Stanley.
Yeah, that was another scene that I was kind of wondering how Steve Perry was going to pull off, like because it happened in the film too. Like after the mask got his revenge on them for screwing him over, like he took these metal bars and just stuck them where the sun don't shine,
Yeah.
and like I was like, I'm kind of wondering how that was going to be written, and and it just basically was pretty straightforward. It's just like, oh yeah, there was just two metal pipes in their back ends, and I'm just like, ouch.
What'd you think of Stanley's friend, his coworker, the Charlie? Right? Isn't that his name?
He's more of Charlie. He's more of a jerk in the book than he is in the film.
I thought it was funny that he's always talking Stan like, oh man, it's gonna be all right. Here's some ladies, but he would always get left behind. But it was funny because he also had a little bit of respect for Stanley because he would, the pretty lady would come over to Stanley and Charlie would be like, hey, it's all yours, buddy. He'd walk off to go do his work. But the characters, the cop Calloway, right?
Yeah, Lieutenant Calloway.
I thought he was fine. Funny in the beginning when he shows up at Stanley's apartment. It's like, you didn't hear anything when you had gunshots going off. Okay, that's weird. And then he just had this idea that Stanley's involved somehow. He figured it out, Yeah,
he was actually a good cop. I mean, the novelization portrayed him more as crooked, like because there's in the book, but in the film, like he didn't do some of the things that he did in the comics. Like in the book, there's a scene where he like outright like punches Dorian Tyrell in the nose, like and but in the book he doesn't do that. Whenever but yeah, he figures it out pretty quick. You know, he's a good detective, and I think Stanley though he should have just said like. He's like, you didn't hear all the gunshots, and like I think he could have gotten away with it. So like, oh yeah, we hear gunshots all the time. You know, it's nothing new. There was one thing they did with Charlie that I noticed in the film also. Like in the film, like when he gets into the club, the Coco Bongo for the first time, like he talks to one of the bouncers and he's just like, hey, it's Charlie. And the guy's like, oh, hey, dude, and lets him in. And the novelization, like he was bribing him, just like, hey, pulls out like some money and says, like, oh, yeah, there you are. I didn't recognize you.
Stanley's money.
Oh, it's Stanley's money. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, yeah, I remember you. Come on in. And the sad part is, like you said, Matthew Stanley still got, you know, jilted on that deal.
Yeah.
What do you think about what did you think about like Kellaway and Charlie, Jeremy?
Oh, they're fine. Like the thing is, a lot of these characters play, of course, second fiddle to Stanley. Stanley's the main character, and they're not really fleshed out a whole lot. Same with Tina. Tina's really not a character.
Yeah.
A weird.
A strange love interest.
They're fine. Whatever. And I don't get any connection with them really. Although it's nice for Stanley to get the babe at the end, and that he can get the babe by being himself.
Yeah, I did like that message. Yeah,
that's nice. And he doesn't, because like the mask is like what he wants to be, but he doesn't have to be that. He can be himself.
I did like that. There was quite a few scenes in this novelization that were not in the film. Like there was a scene that was a deleted scene, and that was the death of the reporter Peggy Brandt. Like she, I guess, tries to leave, and Dorian Tyrell's like, hey, no, stay. And then, you know, I think she pulls out a gun on him, and like she ends up getting killed in the same way in the deleted scene. Like she's thrown in that
printing
paper
press?
Printing
press. Yeah, the printing press. Thank you. And there's also like there's an additional scene. Like there's a scene where with the Swede, what was his name? It was Dorian's boss. There was two scenes where
I think they just called him the Swede.
Yeah.
But there's two scenes where he has like a confrontation with Dorian, but in the movie there was only one. Like one of them was the one we see in the film where, you know, his bodyguards hold him down and he plays golf with his face, and there's another one where he's like basically just like threatening him, and so I did like that we got additional scenes. Like did they really add much to the story? Not really, not all of them anyway. I mean, it was kind of nice to get it was kind of nice to have like an expanded version of the story, but in a way though some of those scenes just, you know, didn't really add much to the story. But other than that, like I said, the book was not a hard read at all. It was you could get through it probably in a day, or like maybe 2 or 3 hours, because it was not a hard read at all. And normally it's funny because normally we try to like do these books to like, you know, say, hey, you should totally check out the novelization over the film, but this is like the exception where I'd be like, I'd stick with the film.
See, the last time I saw this movie was when it came out in theaters. I saw it in the drive-in in 1994 or 1995, whenever it came out.
Yeah, I probably saw it around 99 or 2000, I think.
So it's been a long while, you know.
Now, Son of Mask, I've seen that more recently and wished I hadn't.
I have not seen it. I do not intend to see it, and
it's horrible.
Yeah. My brother had it, and I think I saw like a clip from it, and I was just like, yeah, no, and just walked away. But yeah, like I saw this, like I said, I saw it today, but like I didn't own it. Like the last time I remember seeing it all the way through, I remember watching it the night before my wedding. Like we had a rehearsal dinner, everybody went to bed, I couldn't sleep, and because you know getting married, I was nervous getting married the next day, and then I was like trying to find something to calm me down, and then The Mask was on, so I watched it. So So what would you guys rate this book? I can go first if you'd like, because
Sure.
I was kind of going back and forth on what I would give it. I'm gonna just officially give it a C plus. It was not a horrible book. It just wasn't. It was just Steve Perry did a good job with it, like the best that he could do. But it's just like trying to tackle on all those jokes, like those cartoony effects and everything, just kind of like what Matt said, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. And yeah, I'm just gonna say, and with the plot holes that I caught on everything, I'm just gonna say C plus.
I'm going to give it a C plus as well. I think there's some things that could have been handled much better than they were in the book, but I don't understand it. I don't know how it could have been better, but just the cartoony stuff really took me out. Really nothing much with the character that really drew me in and was like rooting for. A couple funny moments, but yeah, C plus overall.
For me, it has a lot of the elements that I've said before that personally I like in a novelization. I like it short and concise, add some new stuff that was probably cut out of the film, and I like a good flowing book. This is not the worst thing we've read on this podcast, but I enjoyed it, I think, a lot more than you guys did. A lot like Hook, but I enjoyed it more than Hook, and I think I'll give this a 3.87 out of 5. Almost a 4 out of 5. In fact, on Goodreads, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because a 3 out of 5 felt too little, and I just rounded up. But it's a 3.87 from me.
Okay.
Really solid first half, but the second half just kind of, still fast paced enough that I enjoyed it.
No, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jeremy. It's the perfect length for a novelization. It's short, sweet, to the point in a way, and it's just. But I don't know. I just didn't. It just didn't really hit all the right notes, I guess is how I should say. But it wasn't a horrible book, and like you said, it wasn't the most horrible thing we've read on here. But yeah, just I think that's just C plus for me.
Yeah. Makes sense. This is one of those where I'm not going to be like, what? How could you do that? It's like, oh no, that makes 100% sense.
Yeah, there's definitely one of those stories where you don't have a problem with somebody. Of course, there are people out there that have a problem with other people enjoying something, which is weird to me. But like this one is one that you just, if somebody got mad at somebody else for liking it or disliking it strongly, I don't see how that would be possible.
I don't see that this novelization has like a cult following. Like, how certain novelizations are just considered incredible, whether they deserve it or not. Cough, cough, Revenge of the Sith. Cough, cough. But anyway, yeah, it's whatever. I wanted to. Oh, go on.
No, it's okay. I was gonna say I definitely agree. I didn't even know this novelization existed until I just like randomly went on a website that just said, list of movie novelizations or whatever it was called, and then it popped up. I'm like, wait, The Mask has one, and then like immediately looked it up, and I was just like, order,
and I followed suit.
Yeah, but with that said, I don't regret buying it. I still
no, me neither. It's not like.
It looks like a cool thing sitting on the shelf,
Matthew, what did you pick for your month?
Next month, we are going to be, this is weird, I know. For the month of December, we are doing Reanimator. You can get your copy digitally or unaudible from Amazon. They have the Kindle edition. The audiobook is like 4.5 hours long. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to watch the movie for free, it's over on that Tubi website, TUBI.
I was actually going to say, Jeremy, like, well, you not liking Halloween Kills, had some good, because then you can return that credit and use that credit to get Reanimator.
Which I did. That's actually exactly what I did.
Called it.
I was like, let's get ahead on the reading, which Matthew and I have gotten a good chunk of it done already.
Yep.
I'm about to
So-
download it after we record, but
It's written by Jeff Rovin.
Jeff wrote it.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
It was,
that's a great,
I've never heard of this guy, so
it's a
It'd be
great
nice.
way to spend the holiday season, and in 2021, Reanimator.
Reanimator, one of the most disgusting movies ever made.
So
I love
mixing
it.
it up a little bit. And then we're
Good.
going to have an announcement video coming after that with some
Yeah.
updates to the channel. What's going to happen next season on Paper Movies.
That's all, folks.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Be sure to catch Jeremy, Stupid Chainsaw Productions. Catch Matthew at the Geek Attic, and you can find me at Bryant VRM or Red 5 Reviews. And also, you can find Matthew at Tuscan Reader, the Tuscan Reader podcast, and Jeremy at Live and Let's Discuss and King of Our Nightmares, which you actually do post from your Stupid Chainsaw Productions channel, correct?
Yeah, they show up on there if you want to watch them on YouTube.
Okay. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us on this month discussion of The Mask. Be sure to join us next month for Reanimator, and we'll be posting updates about the update to our channel soon. So yeah, just keep an eye out for those, guys. Have a great one.
Stay Gucci.